Good morning. Welcome you all again. Sorry for these 2 minutes. We have to connect because we got lots of people following us from all over the world. Thank you very much for joining us. This webinar, we're going to very briefly address all the questions we received from different people. And thank you very much for all your questions about this workshop. This is the first time we're going to be running this workshop, but we can see from the large number of people who are sending us questions, it is of interest to many people, and also it's quite unique workshop because I think the nature of it is going to be extremely of interest to many people. I have with me Dr. Petru Dumitriu, who is going to be the convener of this workshop. So he's going to answer all the technical questions about the workshop, what is the workshop is about, and any questions from the floor, plus the other question we receive. Let me start by saying a few basic information about this workshop. The workshop is going to be delivered on 4.5 days, starting from Monday, finishing by half day on Friday. The intention until today is to deliver it full-time, face-to-face in London next week on Monday, finishing by midday on Friday. We also making all the arrangement to broadcast it to a specific audience who are subscribing to the workshop on Zoom, because we found the Zoom much easier for people to reach, but we may still use the team. So it will be both face-to-face in London and and also online. The workshop will be delivered by Dr. Petru Dumitriu. You can also look into his bio on the website. He is someone with more than 30 years experience as a diplomat in the United Nations system. He also teach international relations, diplomacy in Diplo Foundation and many other before. He's a well-experienced diplomat. You can read all his bio online. Plus, he has authored, I think, 5 or 6 of very famous United Nations reports, including public-private partnerships, knowledge management, blockchain, public policy for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. He will take us through all that. The workshop, it will be is jointly also delivered in partnership with Queen Mary University of London, specifically short courses. We have a department at Queen Mary called Short Courses, CBD, and Executive Programs led by Andy Colin. And if you complete the workshop, you will be entitled to receive the certificate from London. And that certificate will also be archived in the executive programs. You can all the times can be verified in London. If you want to attend the workshop, but you do not intend to have the certificate, that doesn't make any problem. I think I will stop here. And if you have any questions, please send them on the chat. In the Facebook, 2 people are helping me to get the question from there, but we are very keen to answer your question. So if you want to attend this workshop next week or in the nearest future, we can answer it. The other thing, just before I give Petru the platform, we are happy to deliver this workshop for specific embassies. If an embassy, for example, in London or any part of the world, we have to discuss that. But in London in particular, if say the embassy of any country, they are interested to deliver this bespoke, specific for their own staff, we can do that. We have a minimum number where we can actually get this workshop delivered. We can deliver it online, all this with the arrangement with Petru, whenever there is a time available. We can also deliver it in other countries. We are very keen to explore, for example, countries in the Middle East, in Africa, any country which is interested, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs interested in the workshop, we can make all this arrangement. So I will stop here and I will give the floor to Dr. Petru to take us through the workshop and the content and the way it's going to be delivered, and then we can take the questions. So Petru, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, Alam. Good day, distinguished colleagues and other persons interested in the subject of our course. I'm grateful to you for your interest in that topic. And I would like to make a presentation that is a little bit above what is already available as information on the site of the WASC. because I would like to insist. I was thinking on what should I insist to indeed fuel your interest for multilateral diplomacy. So, but a few words about the structure of the course. It is conceived in 4 main parts. The first one is the conceptual evolution of the idea of multilateral diplomacy. And it includes 6 specific subtopics. The other one is already a step forward from conceptual aspects to concrete aspects of the work in the United Nations, and that is the section on institutional framework, which will include 3 topics. And then we go even further in terms of having direct contact with the realities of the United Nations system, and that would be 8 case studies that we'll do together, and of course, because some of you have never had the chance to write a resolution or to negotiate a text, we will engage into some practical activities of that sort. There are a number of keywords for the course as a whole. One is the complexity of the United Nations system, and the other one is the notion of multilateralism. I will insist a little bit on the concept of multilateralism, because that is the main incentive for me to present what I believe after the 30 years of working with the United Nations system, from various positions, from New York, from Geneva, from inside the United Nations as an inspector, as a team coordinator in my own country, in working with the UN family in my country. I was present in the number of governing bodies, so I feel like I have a lot to say about the United Nations, but of course I won't say it right now. I'm taking care to be as short as possible. I would insist on the word of multilateralism. The basic one is obvious. The United Nations is the most comprehensive organization at global level. Is the global organization per se, as it includes 193 states plus 2 observers. So the whole mankind is represented in the United Nations system. That means that there is a force of attraction that survived the decades since the end of the Second World War, when this was created. So that is one aspect of multilateralism, the multitude of states that are members. The other aspect of multilateralism is related to the power of the United Nations to attract, to convene, and to mobilize other stakeholders than the member states. So we will have a look during the course on the specific kind of cooperation that is done between the United Nations as an intergovernmental bodies and other stakeholders, like the private sector, like the academia, like the civil society. Another aspect of multilateralism, the third one in my improvised presentation, is the kind of thematic areas that are covered by the United Nations. So I'm sure, I mean, that was proven in my practice and my contacts with people from outside the United Nations, but also from the inside the United Nations. People only know partly the United Nations system. So the course will have, among other objectives, to give you a broader image on what is the United Nations system, which is not just the Security Council, is not just the Sustainable Development Goals, it's not just the headlines that we are seeing related to conflicts on TV or on media every day. It's much more, and we should be aware of that. For instance, I think if you have a look on the topics covered, I will just mention a few of them to give you, an idea. Outer space, from outer space to the bottom of the sea, from the climate change to the transportation regimes, from the human rights to the disaster assistance, intellectual property, telecommunication, meteorology, food supply, immunization of children, the drugs control, science, culture, and education, peacekeeping operations, etc., etc. So practically, there are very few aspects of international interaction that are not covered by the United Nations, like the sports, the Olympics, like the financial issues that are covered by organization in the UN system, partly in the UN system, the World Bank Group and the IMF, etc. So practically, there is no area that is relevant for international cooperation which is not covered by the United Nations. And now let's go to another aspect, the fourth one of multilateralism. And I'm looking at you as from the professional perspective. As you noticed in the advertising of the WAST on this, apparently it is open to all kinds of professions and occupation. And I will try to explain why, and why is it justified in terms of the contents of the course. So first of all, of course, diplomats. I have been a diplomat. I was lucky enough to work for most of my career in multilateral relations, in working with the United Nations, as I said. But the majority of diplomats are working on bilateral relations, and I think all diplomats, whether or not will have one day the privilege to work with the United Nations, should know about what is going on in the United Nations system. So diplomats, yes, diplomats should be interested, but not only diplomats. I'm talking about other professional lines that can have some sort of answer and information in this course. The historian will know more about, the origin of the United Nations Charter, what were the specific circumstances in which this charter was established, negotiated, and agreed in the end. There is a line of thinking for the economists, because at the beginning of the organizations, the notion of development economics did not exist, was not an issue for the economists all over the world. They only studied, growth, stock markets, etc. So pure notion of economics, they didn't have anything to do with the development economics, which means a growth that is beneficial to all countries, not just to the most powerful actors. From the perspective of political analysts, of course, that is yet another very important, probably is the most visible aspect of the United Nations system, to study, the political conditions that prevailed at the beginning of the organization, and the changes in the balance of power in the United Nations system, the advent of the emancipation of colonial countries, the Cold War, the end of the Cold War. All these events at global scale had an impact on the way the United Nations is working. So this is, and even there was a shift in the balance of power in the General Assembly, which was fundamental in defining the current profile of the organization. The lawyers, the jurists may be also interested and find something in that course, not only in seeing the evolution of the international law, which is quite spectacular. I would say that probably is the most spectacular achievement of the United Nations, the building up of international law. But also we'll get into some details, like analyzing a case study, a judgment of the International Court of Justice And I will when time will come, I will insist on that, because it is very important. For instance, we are all assisting now to this war in Ukraine, based on some motivation, some arguments of the aggressor. I can tell you that, you know, it was 15 years ago when I'm from Romania, as mentioned by Aram, and we are a neighbor country to Ukraine. And we had a territorial dispute, very, very important, on a very important strategic island, a small but strategically important island in the Black Sea, the so-called Serpent Island. But instead of going to war, to make a right, or what we believe that it should be a right in that case, we went to International Court of Justice. So you'll see how can someone benefit from the services of the International Court of Justice, which is also part of the UN system. If you are a social scientist, of course, that is also a possible window of interest for you, because we will analyze how the impact of the United Nations was exerted in relation with some very important social aspects of the humanity, including the situation of condition of women, of children, older people, and other talking about inequalities and poverty, etc., etc. And even from the more, let's say, modest and but important point of view, that of an accountant. An accountant would like to see how much is spent by the United Nations, how are these expenses distributed among the member states, what is the relationship between the financial contribution and the voting power. That is also an aspect that is covered by this course. And then my last point to make sure that I'm within the time frame granted to me. It's the perspective of the simple citizen. So it is obvious to me that many services, many let's say, benefits that we are having as simple citizens, they have their origins in something that was decided in the United Nations system, somewhere in the component of the United Nations system. We are not aware of that, but this did not come from the blue. This kind of rights of ordinary people, they came from a treaty, from a document, from a body in the United Nations system. And these cover not only human rights per se, but labor standards, safety standards on circulation, safety at sea. You are, most of you, from London, so you know how important is the safety of life at sea. So all these aspects, this course is an attempt to give you a hint, to give you some extra information that is not necessarily available at first sight in other sources. This information, and this will be, I mean, the main ambition of this program is to make people understand better how the United Nations works, and why we should indeed be a strong supporter of the United Nations as a global organization based on principle, based on values, and which draw the lines between, as I like to say, between good and evil, even when all its resolution or decisions are not observed by all member states. Alam, this is what I wanted to say in the first instance, but of course, as you can imagine, we can expand on any question that colleagues might have. I'm all ears.
Okay, thank you very much, Petru. Thank you very much. And just to remind all the people who are following us in the Zoom or outside, the full details of the workshop is available in the website in West. So you can read about the learning outcomes and program day by day, everything. And also any update will be there. And there are lots of questions, Petru, but I will take question from the Zoom and then from outside. But I think the question being from yesterday, I have received a couple of them about the delivery of the workshop, whether it is face-to-face in London or in another part of the world or the online, because we are keen on the online. You yourself have authored the online UN report, and I'm sure you also encourage the online. I know it's sometimes could be simple questions, but I think people are interested to listen as well. If they can't join face-to-face in London, which is going to be a challenge for many people, in Africa particularly, they said the visa will take a long time. We can do it in the future, I know. But generally, in terms of your delivery of the workshop, if it is face-to-face or online, do you have a clear differences, or would your style will be different, or can you be comfortable to tell people what will be the difference if they attend it online only rather than face-to-face?
Yes, of course. I think this is not just was the dilemma or my personal dilemma. This is a dilemma that was expressed during the COVID pandemic in many academic institutions. Of course, it goes without saying that the face-to-face interaction is the best option for any such exercise, because the spontaneity, looking into the eyes of the interlocutor, opening at all times the possibility to ask a question without problem, getting inspiration from this practical interaction, because we intend to have these practical exercises, which of course will be easier to perform face-to-face. But of course, we all learned the lessons of the past. And personally, since 2005, I think I delivered on online courses and hybrid courses, but most of them online courses. So I have the experience of making the best use of the online techniques. And so in short, my answer will be that we can do both simultaneously or successively. What is important is the interest for the issue. If there is an interest for the issue, then the colleagues and myself will find the ways to adjust to each other. And there is an extra point. It's, let's say, a sort of a personal touch on this kind of interaction. As you could notice already, I'm excited about sharing my views on the United Nations. So which means that once we finish the course, the workshop, the program, doesn't mean that we are closing the dialogue among ourselves. I'd like to keep continuing communicating with colleagues. It happened in my past. Colleagues wanted me to tutoring a dissertation paper or PhD thesis, etc., etc. So it's just the entry work that is important. And I think the workshop in London will be first of all a test for me to find out whether the list of issues and subtopics is of real interest for the interlocutors, because they might seem very significant in my eyes, but maybe not in the eyes of the course takers.
A question, I think this is from students. Thank you, Petru. I think this is a student. He or she is asking if the course is really about more of the history and the ideal role of the United Nations, which normally being taught in universities, or you will be providing more in-depth things that cannot be found in the textbook. So I think in a way, maybe the question means, if I am students, would I going to learn about the history of the UN and the ideal role of the United Nations, or you will be providing more in-depth and more things which I will not find in my university? That's a student question, I think.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Yes, it is a very important question. As if you look at the structure of the course, you will see that there is at the beginning some reference to historical aspects. I think they are essential to understand the United Nations, but I will limit myself to present only those aspects that are having a significant impact on today's realities of the United Nations. The most famous issue that is discussed and known, and everybody is an expert on it, is the veto right of permanent members of the Security Council. So I think if I do not explain exactly a bit of the history of this specific article of the Charter referring to the veto rights, we won't understand how the organization is working today. Why is it so important that we have, let's say, a rearrangement of the issue of the veto in the Security Council. I will try to practically the history, the reference to history will be very short, but I found it essential to understand the current realities. And then, of course, we would enter some of the topics that I mentioned into details. Like,
Petru, just to let you know, I'm sharing you the website. So if you want
yes,
me to make reference, go ahead.
Yeah. So for instance, if you look at the institutional framework, of course, that will refer to what is the framework, what are the bodies, what are the places where diplomats act as diplomats towards the United Nations, where the member states express their interests. And then the case studies will be very, very specific. So there will be nothing of other than looking and understanding which are the outcomes of the organizations, and to explain all these areas that I mentioned, the financement of the United Nations system, to explain, to describe, and to see the mystery behind some terminology or some more obscure and more unclear articles of the UN Charter. Then we will talk about the interaction with the private sector, with the interaction with the civil society, and with the logic of the agenda for sustainable development, and the evolution of the concept of development in the United Nations system. And then in practical activity, that will be very practical. You will be in a position to act as a diplomat, having available the information available for a diplomat, and we'll try to have these practical activities like writing a statement in the General Assembly, drafting a resolution of the General Assembly, and negotiating a resolution for the Security Council based on real cases. So it won't be fictionary countries like Ruritania, Aquitania. It will be specific cases based on specific documents. Of course, there will be older documents just to avoid to have the bias of the current perspective, but we won't avoid the current perspective. For instance, we will analyze in details the first resolution of the General Assembly on Ukraine, on the situation in Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Petru. Another question quickly. I think I got 4 or 5 questions. Quickly, human rights activists and other groups, how much they will benefit, or what exactly they will benefit from the workshop if they were to join? I know it's a short question, but that's how it's being raised. Human rights and activists, how can they benefit from this, or what would they benefit from this workshop, from this course?
That's a tough one, because if you are a human rights and activist, and I met many of them in my work with the Commission on Human Rights and Human Rights Council, you are supposed to know a lot about the human rights machinery. But the benefit for such people would be that they will have a broader view on the complexity, on the interaction between the areas of human rights per se, as described in the core human rights treaties and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the connection the connection with other important geopolitical or concrete aspects of the United Nations work. So I think that they also will have the benefit of following such a course.
Okay, another question here. This is from the Zoom. There is one from a student. No, let's take the first one. How the targets and indicators are selected for SDGs? If it is still under development, does this course cover the process of selecting, of developing the concept of SDGs?
Well, the answer is simple. The SDGs is the huge agenda, is something in which so many actors are already involved. The targets and the indicators are already established since the beginning. There is a process by which the national, the countries, they report. There is a system of voluntary reports on the progress, on the advance in achievement sustainable development goals. So we will not enter into these details because that will be a huge undertaking, but we can very well see how the process is working and how the mechanism of reporting on the achievements of SDGs is accomplished. And we will also make this connection with previous agendas, because the idea of having a program, a comprehensive program, is not new. The Sustainable Development Goals is the most complex formula found by the United Nations system, but we had some things that were done in the past, Millennium Development Goals, the decades for development, sometimes in the past, and there were a lot of interest for this issue, which is now came to a point of climax. So very specifically, we will not enter into the history of indicators and targets. They are already there. Countries are following them as a reference point in their progress reports. But we can talk about the modalities in which the countries are making progress in that respect. And I already note on my to-do list to prepare a sort of overview on the reporting mechanism on the achievements of indicators and targets.
Okay, and also while you were talking, Petru, I shared the other program or other course we do, and is planned for just to maybe to add to the answer to your question, to the question of the SDGs. We have this workshop, which is mastering public policy for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. This is planned for March, and Petru himself will also be contributing in that workshop. It's a comprehensive workshop where we look at the SDGs, the history of the SDGs, and the program and the public policy. So that's also in March. You can look at the website, and we can maybe share other things with you. Now, Petru, there's another question here. Can the course be customized for a specific country's United Nations related issue? So I think the question is, can your course, if a specific country requested that course to be customized to their own specific issues with the United Nations? So in another way, more of giving them advice or consultancy, but the course will take into account that specific country UN related issues. Can the course be used, customized for that purpose?
That's again an interesting and tough one. So I think it is clear for everyone that is present in this meeting that this is the first edition of this course. This course was conceived in order to cover what as much as possible in a course of relatively short duration, 4 days and a half. So the course in itself is an experiment. It will be adjusted to the needs and to the as expressed during the delivery of this course. The question asked by the last question, it's then half of the answer is in that comment that I made first. But of course, when you work in the United Nations, you have to look not only to the interests of your country. You see the specific of your group, the 5 regional groups. You would look at the specificities of other kind of political alliances that do exist spontaneously in the UN system, like landlocked countries, like small Pacific Islands countries, etc., like countries affected by conflicts or country. So there are so many situations that multilateral diplomats should have a look over all of them, all these aspects. But I think that the way the United Nations is working allows a sort of specific look to a specific country. But that, of course, so in principle, yes, that this course can be customized, can be, there are general things that are valid for any country in the world, but there are specific things that are important from the regional perspective or from the national perspective. So we can do that, but of course that would need an extra time for adjustment and documentation. If there is an interest for such a customized course, I would say in principle that it is possible. Why? Because practically we will have the chance to search on all contributions of the respective member states to various bodies of the United Nations to see what were their pains, their position, their voting positions, their interest, and their contributions in general to the UN activities. So this is in principle possible with an extra effort of documentation, of course.
Thank you very much, Petru. There are other questions which we received here. And the questions, some of them are to do with the cost of the program. Just to clarify again, WAST is a non-profit organization, but the university in Queen Mary, there is a charge for the certificate and for running the course, because this is a dedicated department at Queen Mary University called short courses, CBD, and executive programs, and we can't do anything with the charges provided by the university. But the main cost really is to do for the face-to-face with the cost of running the workshop for 5 days. Because things in London, I know I have just come back from Saudi Arabia, things are not as expensive as I can see in the UK. UK is very expensive these days. So the cost, that cost really, part of it is substantially is to cover the cost of the workshop for 5 days. That's what I said earlier. If anybody, or particularly embassies in London, they would like to offer accommodation or the hosting the event in their embassy, they have a good big room, will take 20, 30 people. Of course, that will reduce the cost of the running of the workshop, and perhaps we can look at giving some free spaces. That can be a possibility. I received several requests yesterday and the day before, and even today I can see in the Zoom. Someone, she said she student, I think she is student, and the cost is very high. And I would urge all of you, those who are keen to attend the course, to contact us through the email so we can deal with them one by one basis. But really, things in London are very expensive. And again, as I said earlier, Petru and WSD are very keen to explore any part of the world, but we just do have few things we will need to clarify if someone is keen for the course to take place in his or their country or by a ministry and so on. I mean, Petru, I think there's other question, but I think you answered all of them in general. So just to summarize, because I don't want to keep you long, and I also want, if you have any question about the course, please, number one, I encourage you all to visit the website, because any update from Petru will be updated in the website. That's number one. Number two, I will just look at it now because this question has been raised several times, and I'm very keen to see where is it. Yes, the course, I tried to answer this question several times, but maybe I can do it once again. If you can see here, this is a certificate you will get from Queen Mary University of London. I sign it on behalf of WAST, and Andy Colley will sign it. He's the head of the short courses and CBD and executive program at University of London, Queen Mary. So you don't need to have this certificate, because this certificate, it costs money. If you just want to attend the course, yes, you can attend the course. So the certificate is an option. Although if you take it with the course, it is already reduced. So that one, maybe if the certificate is not really a big issue for you, then you can reduce the cost of the course. And secondly, we can look into maybe issuing a joint certification with other institutions across the world. We don't know, but we will have to look at this. Now, the second thing is the program is 4 days and a half. And we're also going to be, as Petru said, this is the first time we're going to deliver it. Maybe we will look at delivering it, or maybe shortening it into maybe bespoke 3 days. On some countries, they're looking for 2 days, but this is all has to be tested. So I think, Petru, I will just give you a final word, but I'm very keen not to take this long. Any question, please contact us, either Janet, which you have her email on the website, or the general email of WAS admin, and we will do our best to contact you. If you are interested to join the course, but you are interested on a specific online, or you want it in the nearest future, so please explore anything with us, and we will be very happy to answer it. And then we will confirm to those who are interested to join next week the place and the venue. We have 2 places, one in central London and one at the university. We are likely to go for the central London venue because the university is outside town. So we will come back to those specifically who would like to join face-to-face. But for the online, if you subscribe to the course online, you will receive the login details and everything. So I think I will just give you the final word, Petru, before we close.
Alam, thank you very much once again for convening this meeting, which I found already very, very useful. As I said, this is the first edition of the course. It is an experiment in terms of the form of delivery, in terms of contents. As far as the form of delivery is the topic, I would adjust myself to any convenient formula in view of your academic experience and past records, and of the specific interest of special categories of course takers. With respect to the contents, yes, to the extent I have the necessary knowledge, I will be ready to adjust, to change, to innovate, to add, or to subtract from the current formula. The first course, face-to-face, which I'd like to have it, is because that would be for me the best test on the interest. I want to make sure that the topics we discuss are of real interest for the colleagues, as not only diplomats, but maybe other professions and occupations. So thank you for the interest of those present here. I hope to see as many of you as possible in London. If not, we keep in touch and we adjust. And I'm ready to respond to extra questions in the meantime, not necessarily during this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Petru, thank you very much. I will just give, we got less than 5 minutes. If anyone from those in the Zoom would like to ask a question, we're quite happy to give him or her a chance. If you want, just press that hand thing on the Zoom, and we can give you the opportunity. We got like 3 or 4 minutes. Anyone from those in the Zoom would like to ask a question or ask for clarification or anything, just raise your hand. You know that hand sign on the Zoom. Any comments? I can see people from different places. Any comments, any feedback? We're quite happy to give, we got 2-3 minutes. Okay, thanks a million. Okay, thank you very much, Mendil Consulting, much appreciated. Thank you. While I'm just giving in this 1 or 2 minutes, just to also draw your attention, we have another workshop which is one of our popular workshop. But this workshop is run, we're going to run it in Saudi Arabia next month, and then we are running it in Dubai. And now yesterday we had a discussion from Morocco, and it's likely to be also run in Tunisia. So we will share all this one. The workshop is the executive leadership in the public and private sectors. The next one we are running is going to be online, it's all online, 28th of February. And the way it's running is running every Saturday. So Saturday 28th, then the 4th of February, and then the 11th of February. So we customize or try to be as flexible as possible. This is purely online. Let me just see if there's any other question. Yes, I think we have answered all the question. Yes, so thank you very much. And we stay in touch. Thank you, Petru. And we say bye-bye from London, from Bucharest, from everywhere. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye. So I'm going to stop now the record.